Hey, how's it going everybody, and welcome to Fantasia. For today, we're going to be jumping into another session of Epic 7. Now today, we are going to be doing an account review, and by this, if you haven't tuned into any of my previous videos, I basically just go through all of my units. You get to see their current build, the rolls on the gear, and I'll briefly explain what I use them for. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this. We're going to be going in order in terms of elements, just sorted by grade. So we're going to have fires on top, and then we're going to go down, like fire, ice, earth, and etc. So starting off here, we have my Holiday Yufine at +8 Molagoras. She is mainly used as a Bazaar counter, so I don't really have her built for damage here. Now she does have, 2,000 attack, which is but 100% crit chance here, no crit damage, not needed, some speed and some bulk. Her main job is to basically survive and to live. The longer she lives, the better she does, mostly because you'll get pushed back less, right? And she gives a little CR push as well in her S3, which is pretty good, and I'm running her on Champion's Trophy, more of a supporty artifact here. Gives her more effectiveness and gives her a 20% chance to stun, which is like an Abyssal Crown actually, which is pretty good, or like Dizzy's S1. So it changes how the Yufine's S1 into like basically a Dizzy, which is not too bad. And the 24% effectiveness brings me up to almost like 60% effectiveness, which is pretty decent against most DPS units. Alright, so moving on here, we have my Fire Ken, who is getting a buff soon as of recording this video, probably later this week in a few days. So Ken is at +9 molas. He is one of my favorite units to use. He's such a good bruiser, and once he gets his buff with a 100% chance of defense break on his S2 that ignores effect resistance if he has vigor, oh yeah, he is gonna be sick. He is on immunity now. He is fairly good. He's on Sigurd Scythe. He's on my spare Sigurd Scythe here. The main one's on ML Ken, but this does help him retain a bit more sustainability in later fights, especially in RTA. So really like him there. Alright, we don't have Soul built, so let's go to Lilias. Now, Lilias actually underwent a few changes here. You can see we got an imprint on her, that's fantastic. But what I did with my Lilias is I made her bulkier, right? She now has 20k HP and 1,500 defense. Her speed doesn't necessarily matter, it's between like 200 to 220, which is kind of like where I'm more comfortable with her, because more debuffers like Dizzies tend to go before that, and then you also have, of course, your Bazaars and things like that Lilias could counter, that goes slightly above that. Even the slower Bazaars are like 220, 230, so this is a good range for me in my personal playstyle, and she has a bit of effectiveness here, just to help her with her provokes, and she's running an Adamant Shield for some reduced crit damage onto my allies. Now, of course, I could run her on Aureus, but I do have other Aureus users, so right now she's the one that tends to fit the Adamant a bit more. Alright, so next up we have our Kayron. Yeah, that's right, recently pulled him, fantastic addition to my squad, +12 molas out the gate. You don't need anything in his S2 because, let's be honest, you're never going to get a second immortality off. But here are his stats. So he's running immunity with a crit damage set, and he has 100% crit chance, which is very solid. He's slow, but honestly, because he has immortality, he does not care about anything. My destruction set rolled pretty decently. I wouldn't say it's like the best, but it does have quite a bit of crit chance on there, which I do appreciate. And yeah, it's just free destruction pieces and then a free immunity neck, and I got this immunity helmet. I wish his attack was higher, around 4,000, but like as you can tell by my rolls here, especially this necklace, they didn't roll too well. He is currently on Lilias Knife, which is such a good artifact for just dealing with tankier units. Makes him penetrate defense, and he's on his S3 EE. I don't think this is max. I think the max chance is 13% crit chance, but I mean, it brings me to 100%, and that's all that matters. It's a 10% increased damage on his S3, which has come in handy quite a few times. Alright, next off we have, oh yes, one of my favorite units, and she has been re-geared, +15 Melissa. And here are her stats. So still over 4,000 attack, 260 something crit damage, which is enough for her, and 100% crit chance. Now she is at 210 speed, very zoom. And the reason for this is so that she does not need to rely on oxlots to go ahead and deal with most Revenant Violets, at least at where I am, in which I play in Challenger Arena and the Guild Wars that I'm in. So she does all right. There are a few Violets that can outspeed her, but if I get a speed imprint, or if I just bring, Oxlots or Athletica, somebody that can give her just a slight little boost, she's going to outspeed them every time. She is running Oath Key, which increases hit chance by 20%, because while she can dispel the evasion buff of Violets, if they're running Moonlight Dreamblade, I need to be able to cancel that out. So that's why Oath Key is here. Really strong on her, and yeah, pretty much that's my Melissa now, built to counter Rylets. She still does a ton of damage overall, and really liking her. Okay, so next off we have, oh yes, my favorite unit to use in RTA just for fun, Researcher Carrot. Plus 15 because she's a 3-star, self-imprinted for additional attack, and fully I-90'd. So as you can see, 5,000 attack on Researcher Carrot, 1,200 defense, 12,000 HP, and 160 speed. Doesn't need crit chance or crit damage, that's irrelevant, and a little bit of effectiveness goes a long way. You're not really planning to burn like Ruels or like those types of units. You're mainly going straight for the DPS, cleaving them down with the burns, and yeah, you pretty much win after that. So all of these pieces have a bunch of attack and supplemented by defensive substats, right? Some of them have a bit of speed, so that she has a moderate speed. You don't want her too slow, otherwise she won't be able to cycle her S2 shield fast enough to get her the extra barriers. This gives her so much bulk, and I am running her on Proof of Valor here to increase that bulk. So she does not go down easy, and she'll just stay there and exist and continue to burn and deal lots of damage. Alright, so that is my carrot there. Next up we have my Achates, self-imprinted S imprint, I think, yes, for HP. I do need to pull more copies of her. Fortunately, I haven't been able to do that. Plus 3 onto the S3, and that's all you need. She's running like free HP gear, right? Everything here is free except her chest plate. So I'll show those. Chestplate has a bit of speed and effect resist, but nothing much else that stands out. She's fairly tanky. I like her a lot. Her stats right here, 1,400 defense and 19,000 HP. Her speed is pretty good, 185. Goes like after all the debuffers, right? She's kind of the second barrier against Basars, so you have like Lilias and then Achates is what I could use against Basars. Obviously now I have Holiday Yufine as an option as well. 100 effect resist because her S3 actually gives her an effect resist buff for 50%, so she'll be at 150% effect resist with that buff on all the time because you cycle between her S3 and S2. She's on Rod of Amaryllis to help her keep up the heals, especially on her S2, which is actually really nice for sustaining your tanks while she's healing herself or putting invincibility on herself. And her EE is going to be the one that gives you effect resist for 2 turns whenever you use your S3. Alright, and yeah, that's pretty much Achates, very straightforward unit. Really enjoy using her, one of my favorite healers in the game. And next off we have Tamarinne, so plus 8 molas in the skills that matter, and here are her stats. Now, she is not built for PvP. I used to use her in PvP with the Tamarinne Iseria combo, but nowadays I pretty much use her for A13 farming. She's my auto healer on A13, and she does a fantastic job. She's also extremely good in expeditions for me. I use her in the ice one, and I use her in the earth one. So that's the reason why she's on Touch of Rekos. It actually helps her quite a bit sustaining the heals. Because of her speed, she does cycle quite a bit, and of course, you know, her idle form, which pushes up her combat readiness as well. So she's able to get Touch of Rekos to go off quite a bit, which helps sustain the team in those expeditions. And yeah, she's pretty much a PvE unit at this point. But oh man, is she good at her job. Alright, so moving on here, we have our ice units. So starting off, we have Luna. I don't really use Luna all too often. I I just realized that I could use her in Guild Wars, and I have in a few of them. They should be getting posted soon. But Luna is a fun unit, mostly because she's on spare gear. Like, I did not pay attention to any of these stats. These are just pieces that I don't use. So you see blue pieces and everything here. Free destruction piece, a free destruction piece. There's no crit damage on this piece either, which sucks, but oh well, we're on a destruction set, it makes up for it. This piece didn't roll all too well. There's no attack percent on this necklace. Like, these are just scuffed pieces of gear, but oh man, does she work. She is plus 15. And she is running a portrait as well, plus 15 portrait. Don't really plan on upgrading this all too. Oh wait, no, this is a max limit broken one. There's one portrait that I have that's not max limit broken. She should probably have that one. But yeah, so Luna works. I usually just Oxlot's boost her up and then soulburn and snipe a unit and then do it again and again. So that's what she's usually used for in some Guild Wars. Not the ones where I really need to try in, but. She is still a fun unit. Alright, next up we have Sigret. So Sigret's at plus 3. She is pretty much only used for Wyvern for me. Sometimes I bring her to Guild Wars with Oxlots just to snipe down an Arby or something, but I typically stick with Lilibet for that because of her built-in Oath Key on her S3. She's pretty good attack actually. I like to get that to about 4,000 if I could. But yeah, her crit damage pretty solid as well. Her crit chance doesn't need to be 100% because she gets 15% from attacking Wyvern because she has elemental advantage there. And yeah, built some effectiveness here, 82%, so she can land her bleeds and all her debuffs on Daydream Joker to do more damage to the Wyvern. And I use her her EE where it changes the condition to use her skill from 50% remaining health to 75%, right? That's her S2. So if you S2 when the Wyvern has like 75% or lower health, she'll go into an S1, which inflicts a ton more bleeds, which helps keep debuffs on the Wyvern, which is pretty nice. Alright, so that's my Sigret there. Fairly good, and now I have my Karin, and Karin has a SSS imprint for crit chance, which you can see helps her out a lot here, reaching that 85% crit chance threshold for Wyvern. That's what I use her for. She is my defense breaker and my debuffer. So again, rocking a lot of, you're gonna see a lot of these PvE units just rocking the free gear, right? So all of these pieces are pretty much free except this last one here. This piece just rolled a ton of effectiveness, which I was so happy about because it brings her effectiveness up to 70%, which is a threshold you need to ensure that you get your debuffs on Wyvern. And I have a Torn Sleeve here as her artifact, only plus 15 unfortunately, but 75% is good enough because she gets multiple turns sometimes. If you go into S2, she'll go into S1 or S3 afterwards. And I also have Sigret for the bleeds as well. So yeah, these two units definitely put in work for Wyvern. Now, speaking of Wyvern units, I have my Seaside Bellona here, plus 15, of course, and she is on Lifesteal and Immunity. Changed her up quite a bit from last time. You can see her stats over here, 4,000 attack, very solid. Opted to skimp on the crit damage for more crit chance and HP and defense. So she is fairly bulky. I wish she was slower, but my lifesteal pieces rolled pretty well in terms of their substats, as you can see here. So there's quite a bit of speed on each one. They didn't roll speed into any of the substats here, but they did start with 5, so that's quite a bit across all these pieces, and it adds up. If she was slower, she'd be even better in my auto comp for Arena, but honestly, auto comp destroys almost everything anyway, so it doesn't really matter. She has a bit of effectiveness as well, which is kind of nice for landing her debuffs, and of course she's on a plus 30 drink. When I do use her for Wyvern, which I do, she is a part of this ice squad here, Sigret, Karin, and Seaside Bellona. I just swap her over to Daydream Joker right here, and then she is good to go. So one simple change and she's ready for Wyvern. Alright, so next off, speaking about debuffs earlier, we have the debuff queen, Dizzy. Now, Dizzy used to be on a counter set for me. I don't think I've ever showed that on this channel, actually. That's unfortunate. But she used to be on a counter set. She is at plus 9. This S3 is actually, I only upgraded this because of the free Mola things you get from 10 Friendship. I don't recommend actually doing this. I just got that for free. But we have, you know, around 2,000 attack is good enough for Dizzy. Got some HP and defense. She's fairly squishy, low HP. I would like that to be like 18k or whatever, but Right now she's rocking a lot of spare gear, as you will see in a bit. 215 speed, not too bad. I mean, for speed effectiveness Dizzy, she is quite slow, but there are units that, you know, like Lilias and stuff that are built around that range too. So if someone has a faster Lilias, the Dizzy can actually do some work. The only problem with the speed Dizzy right now is that immunity wrecks her, right? So immunity completely destroys her. I do have her on Aila Violin, so sometimes I'll use her S1 to clear out some of the immunity buffs, and then hopefully I have another debuffer in that same comp to go ahead and inflict some CC while Dizzy waits for her next turn to come up, so she can go ahead and S3. And that's pretty much it. She has a pretty good effectiveness here. On her counter build, which I do prefer, she had a less effectiveness, way more effect resist, way more bulk, and a little bit less speed. So she was around like 175 speed, which is perfect for most units to run out their immunity, so she can go ahead and debuff them. But yeah, that's my Dizzy right here. Not really too happy with her right now, but I'm going to be farming more counter sets. So hopefully we'll have another counter set for her soon. Alright, next up we have Luluca, my queen of PvE content, expeditions, hell raid, just everywhere, normal raid. She is such a good unit, and I love her so much, even though this S imprint is literally never wanted a copy of her, and she just showed up. How many copies was it? One, two, three. I've got 4 copies from her just showing up. But yeah, the attack imprint's actually pretty nice. Alright, so here are her stats, and she is pretty good. Her crit chance is almost at 100%. It doesn't really matter because I mostly use her for PvE. Her defense and HP help her to survive when she's on auto. The attack at 3k is alright. It could be higher. I mean, you see I'm rocking a 50% main stat attack ring here, so she could definitely be better. But she works 70% effectiveness, good enough for PvE, and some crit damage to go along with her attack here. She is on Midnight Bloom, so she does give herself the additional crit chance, and this also helps support some of my other PvE units that I bring in the parties. So I could switch this to Daydream Joker if I use her for Hell Raid, so there's that. And then her EE, oh my gosh, I used to use the one that gave more percent. No, gave the 75% chance to do attack down on her S3, but I switched that to this. Oh my god, is she so good on this EE. The 35% chance to grant an extra attack when you use her S1 is so powerful because her S1 has a 50% chance to defense break, and if you miss it on the first one, you have a 35% chance to get that 50% chance proc again. So there's so many times this come up where she is using her S1, misses defense break, does it again, hits the defense break, or if you hit it the first time, her second hit, her follow-up S1 is going to deal so much more damage because that defense break is now there. So there she is, fairly strong unit. I really like her for PvE. Don't really use her for PvE though, or PvP though. Alright, so moving on here, we have Montmorancy, the best free-to-play healer, and yeah, she's plus 15, of course, self-imprinted for effect res. Here are her stats, fairly typical Montmo. I mean, she is not anything special. She is fairly tanky, she does her job at resisting things, she is really good at cleansing, and that's pretty much it. She is on Rod of Amaryllis though, that is something to keep in mind. It helps her keep up the heals, helps sustain the team, especially in PvP context. So there's that. Alright, so moving on here, we have Angelica's not geared. Okay, we have Diene right here, and oh my gosh, Diene is such a fantastic addition. I've built a lot of units since the last account review, haven't I? But Diene's a plus, I don't even know. She is plus 13, plus 13. I think the only thing is this, yeah. I didn't need the extra damage on her S1, and that's pretty much it. So here are her stats, fairly tanky unit, 1500 defense, almost 18,000 HP, 100 effect res. I wish it was higher, I just don't have the pieces, and I'm so sad that I can't bring her to 150 res, because I use her so much in RTA. But for that reason, she is on immunity here, so do keep that in mind. She is 218 speed, which is not fast enough. I do want her to be like 230. That's like the ideal. 225, 230 would be fantastic. She's also a Rod of Amaryllis because her skills actually don't do any healing. So Rod actually gives her some form of way to sustain the team. which is not too bad. And yeah, she's been my main like attack buffer. She's so good with Seaside Bellona and Crimson Armin. Such a good unit. Alright, moving on to the Earth units. Speaking of new units, I just built Alencia, like literally 2 days ago from recording this video. So she's +7. I do want to get this, the defense break chance up to the 75%. So I need more Molagoras, waiting for the week to reset. And yeah, got +4 on, oh actually I need this. Don't I? Yeah, I do need this. I need the last one for her S2. Her S3 is fine. I'll just leave it at the -1 cooldown. And she's self-printed for health. I got an extra copy. So here are her stats right here. Fairly solid in my opinion. I wish her defense was higher, but in order to exchange, in order to make sure she was fast enough and got the crit chance, I had to make sure that I had to sacrifice the defense. So I wish her defense was 1400, but she's okay for now. 23,000 HP is very good. She has a bit of effectiveness on her. Her speed is actually important because my Researcher Carrot is 160 speed. So my Alencia needed to be 170 speed or more in order to ensure that she went before Carrot. And the reason for that is so Alencia can strip any potential immunities or buffs on the opponents, and then I can nuke with Carrot. The ideal team here is Diene, Alencia, and Researcher Carrot. Such a good combination, especially if you do an RTA, because Alencia counters Diene, so if you pick Diene with Alencia, you're covering your bases there. She has a bit of crit damage, a bunch of crit chance, and because her crit damage is fairly low, I tend to I'd gravitate towards putting Draco Plate on her. So Draco Plate increases the crit damage that she does, but also decreases the amount that she takes. So I could +30 this, but I just don't have the charms right now to do it. But if I get the chance, I definitely will. It's like a built-in adamance, right? Which is fairly good. Alright, and that's going to be it for the Alencia. Moving on here, we have the Queen of Destroying Arby. We have my Lilibet, who unfortunately is only +5 on her S3. I really want to +15 her. She is one of my favorite units in this game to use. Here are her stats. Fairly okay attack, could be higher. Especially for her speed. Like for her speed here, she should definitely have higher attack. But what I plan to do is make her faster. I want to make her like Melissa, where she is like 200, like 15 to 20 speed just to go before most Arbiter Vildreds, and then I don't have to use my Oxlots with her or any CR pushes with her for that, which would be nice. She is on Portrait, +15. Unfortunately, I would like to get more +30 portraits, but as of right now, it's not feasible. And she gets additional crit chance from her EE, and it increases the damage that she does with her S3. Mostly because sometimes you run into FCCs with RBs. Actually, I say sometimes, but you always run into FCCs with RBs. And so if I soul burn her S3 here, this extra 10% damage actually does help penetrate even the thickest of FCC shields. So that's the reason why I have that there. And yeah, Lilibet does her job. Alright, next off, Mercenary Helga went through so many changes. I had a build that I really liked on her, but then I had to steal some of her pieces. So unfortunately, this is what we're left with here. She doesn't have the best attack, right? This is because she's running, I believe, a defense ring. So she doesn't have the best attack. There's not a lot of attack substats on these pieces here. But what she is she's a really good support unit at defense breaking, and she can do a bit of damage, just a little bit. She used to be on Draco Plate up here, but now she's on Durandal for the faster cycling to get her buffs up onto team. The attack buff is really nice, and the effectiveness buff as well. Brings her up to 90% effectiveness, which can defense break most units that aren't just, you know, healers with 150% effect res, which is nice. Her defensive stats actually took a hit. She used to be like 1400 defense and 16,000 HP or 15,000 HP, but unfortunately I only have a defense percent ring here that has speed and crit damage and all the other stuff that I want. Unfortunately, I don't have many HP rings left. All my healers took them, so she's on this for now, but she is such a great unit for her speed imprint, which is mainly what I use her for in a specific comp. So I will get to that in a bit when we get to some of the Moonlight units. But yeah, here's my Mercenary Helga. Really love her still. She's still a great partner for Carrot, especially the effectiveness buff for her to land burns. But yeah. Moving on here, we have the Queen of Destroying Arby. We have my Lilibet, who unfortunately is only +5 on her S3. I really want to +15 her. Moving on, we have Yufine. Yufine here is plus 14, I believe. The only thing I didn't get is the extra, I don't think an extra 5% chance on her S2 is worth it, but that's just me. Alright, so here we go. She is rocking, she used to be on the free attack set, but I changed her over to this destruction set because it actually deals a little bit more damage. 350% crit damage with Hellcutter potentially stacking additional attack for her. So I know her attack took a hit, but she gets attack percent stats from Hellcutter. She is, ignore this, this literally doesn't matter. The only thing you care about is the extra damage when she does her S1, the effectiveness, that's the only effectiveness she has. You're going to use her to nuke things, right? She is not really used in most cases, by most players, for control, for the silence. But yeah, the Hellcutter, like I was saying, Hellcutter though helps increase her attack, and she typically does get an attack buff from getting pushed up by someone like Oxlots, or maybe an attack buff from Diene or something if I'm playing a slower comp. And yeah, that is going to scale really well with this high crit damage here, because there isn't really a unit that buffs crit damage. I know like Rin does that, but that's like random, right? It's a random buff that you have to rely on RNG for. So maxed out her crit damage, her attack scales up, and then I'll increase her overall damage compared to the attack build that I had earlier. Yeah, that's my Yufine. She still does a lot of work in Guild Wars. Okay, so next up we have my man, Charles. Charles with the self-imprint here, plus 15. I love him so much, and here are his stats. Oh yes, fully I-90'd, well, except for the 2 counter pieces here, but they rolled so well that I have to use them. Almost 1400 defense, 18,000 health, really slow, just so he can sit there and counter with Elbrus, and he has additional chance to proc that counter, S1 into an S2 with his EE right here. And yeah, very solid. Basically 100% crit chance. I mean, if this 0.2 screws me over, then so be it. But 99.8% crit chance, a ton of crit damage, really high attack for Charles, all things considered, because he has really low base attack based on his, what is it, sign up here, right? Earth, Night, Gemini. He has a little bit of effectiveness, really doesn't matter. He strips anyway, right? If you guys ever played against a Charles, you know he strips anyway. He does not care. Alright, so moving on here, we have Falconer Kluri. Now, yeah, much like Helga, Falconer Kluri kind of suffered because I had to take some of her gear. As you can see, she's kind of back on like 70 pieces, which is unfortunate. But she is still rocking 214 speed, which is enough to kind of go before most Ruels, and hopefully after some Liliases. Now, I would have liked to have immunity on her, but I was not able to do that without sacrificing her, without sacrificing her effectiveness here. And she is basically now built as a anti-Ruel, anti-bruiser comp flurry, rather than helping to set up for cleaves with her defense break and provoke by going super fast at like 250 speed like I had her in the past. She is fairly tanky, she's fairly bulky, she's used to mitigate AoE damage with Aureus. And yeah, she's in a control comp, basically. She's used to provoke Ruels, defense break them, kill off the Ruel fast, and things like that. She's also really good for Rylets as well, slower Rylets. You just have to make sure that they don't have a cleanse on their team. So that is the only thing to watch out for. But yeah, still really love my Kluri, still use her all the time, PvE and PvP. Highly recommend. She's plus 15 as well. Alright, next off we have Earth Bellona, another new unit. So she has plus 4 into her S3 for the 80% chance to inflict defense down, or decrease defense. And here are her stats. So she is used for PvE and PvP. Now she is fast, 240 speed, and that's not, this is without any tier 90 pieces, right? So, you know, this effectiveness ring could go up, these boots can get extra 5 speed right out the gate. I believe this chest piece can get 2 or 3 more speed here. She has a lot of potential to reach at least like 250 plus speed. She is on Cursed Compass for the additional effectiveness at the start of the battle, mostly because I use her in Guild War defenses now, and she is used to go after Broman after he strips immunity, and then she inflicts defense down, and RB just cleaves, right? So that is the premise. This EE is actually probably not the best to have on her for PvP. I should just switch this out for this one here, which gives the extra 20% chance of defense break, but because I use her in A13 and like and a bunch of other PvE content. I do still have it on the Dispel buff, so that is that. I would probably switch this over before every like guild war or something like that. All right, but yeah, that's my Bellona. She doesn't really do much damage. She has quite a bit of attack as the necklace, but you know, without any crit chance or crit damage, she's not consistent. Okay, so next off, speaking of PvE content from earlier, Iseria and Tamarinne, both of them are kind of used exclusively for PvE for me now, because I have better CR pushers that I use and better strippers and defense breakers now. So she's still retaining some bulk because she has to survive during like A13 autos and things like that. But her speed is at like 219. It used to be faster. She used to be like 225, 226. But she is still, I think, almost 10 speed faster than Tamarinne. So there is a chance that Tamarinne can go before her. But because I auto with her in PvE and I don't really use her anywhere else as of right now, that is perfectly fine with me. Bit of crit chance to help out, a little bit of crit damage to help with the chipping away at A13. The effectiveness is low. I wouldn't use her for PvP this way, but it's enough for A13, right? 70% effectiveness is good enough for A13. She's at 84, and that's not too bad. She is running Sachet Etanes for her artifact, because if you kill the little eggs in A13, they count as a mob, and it boosts up your team's combat readiness, helps my team cycle through, get their skills off cooldown faster, helps out the Tamarinne, helps out Arby, helps out Bellona. It's just really good all around for PvE. Alright, and yeah, that's pretty much Iseria as of right now. Maybe one day I'll switch her back to a PvP build with Tamarinne, but as of right now, I just don't have the effectiveness pieces or the speed pieces to make that come true. Alright, but yes, you guys see this. Oh yeah, one of my favorite Soul Weavers in the game, Rin. So I just had to build her when they released her EE. She is only A imprint because I gave all of my Rin imprints to my ML Rin. I just managed to scrounge up the Molas to go ahead and +2 her S3, but I don't think, oh yeah, I definitely need a +4 her S2 to get that 75% chance of defense break, and that's pretty much it, right? That's, and +3 on the S3, so still have a little bit to go in terms of molaing her, but here's where my counter dizzy pieces went. Yeah, so I'll go through these. Counter Rin is really good because her S1, I have her on Celestine so she can heal from it, but it also boosts her combat readiness as well, and she also has the ability to strip on her S1. So it is a really, really powerful skill, and she also has, she's like the only Soul Weaver with a defense break, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that utility, plus the heals, plus all of her random buffs, with a chance for things like greater attack buffs, crit damage buffs on her S3, oh my gosh, it's so good. I have her EE as the Showtime EE, which dispels 1 debuff from all allies before the skill effect. So if you have Unbuffable on all your team, like let's say I don't know why you would do this, but you bring Rin into a Bassar fight and then Bassar like hits Unbuffable on you, you can make sure to cleanse that and then just go ahead and put the buffs on anyway. She is fairly tanky. Wish her HP was a little higher. Speed's okay for counter. And yeah, wish her effectiveness was higher. I did want to go for a mix of effectiveness effect res. You can see with like some of my pieces, this is effectiveness, this has effectiveness, but then you see here, there's effect res on my helmet, there's effect res on my weapon. I was trying to go for a little bit of both, just so she doesn't get randomly debuffed from like DPS units, right? But this is not good enough. I probably, if I had to choose, just put it into effectiveness so she is more reliable in terms of defense breaking and stripping. But yeah, she is really fun to use, and I'm definitely going to be using her in RTA. Alright, so moving on, we have Roana. Roana, I have her S2 fully moled and her S1 or S3 here at just the +1. She is very tanky. She's on a very high resist build, and she is pretty quick as well. She could definitely have more HP and more bulk, but I chose to go for speed because I do run her on Wondrous Potion Vial, and the reason for that is because I need her to cleanse. She doesn't have an innate cleanse in her kit, so when she's faced with too many debuffs, it actually it really sucks, right? There's no cleansing in her kit. That's also the reason why I chose to go for this EE on Rin, just so she had the ability to cleanse. Alright, but yeah, Roana, very solid, use her to counter SSB, and that's pretty much it. I use her sometimes in Guild Wars, and I use her quite a bit as a counter pick in RTA, so there's that. Alright, moving on, we have the king of Wyvern tanking, a General Purrgis, and that's all I really use him for. So really the only thing you need to Mola is his S2. I got his S3 to 1 turn cooldown because he reached Friendship 10 because I used him so much. Self-imprinted for health, and he is a bulky fellow. He's on this really bad weapon, but I didn't really have much else. I had a few other pieces, but I had to give them to some Soul Weavers. But this had enough HP to bring him to 30k HP, so I said, you know what, screw it. He doesn't need the attack or any of the other stats anyway, so there was that. He is on HP and defense sets, which help him be very tanky. All of the right side pieces are HP percent, mostly because he just needs that HP, right? He has enough defense to kind of mitigate some damage, almost plus 30 proof of valor to help mitigate even more damage from Wyvern, and he has the EE, which helps push up by more combat readiness. So he just pushes up all your DPS after 3 Wyvern hits, and then you just you win, you just go ham. He is really slow because I don't want him to take turns against the Wyvern. But very happy with my General Purrgis build. I do bring him a lot into PvP as well. In certain situations, he's actually pretty decent. And the fact that they're giving him HP scaling on his attacks with this upcoming buff update is actually insane. He is going to surprise a lot of people with what he can do. Okay, so moving on, we have the light unit, Little Queen Charlotte. So Little Queen Charlotte is full I-90 gear now, plus 15, self-imprinted for defense, and yeah, fairly good attack stat for the crit damage and crit chance, and the bulk that we have, and the speed. Now, I tend to go for a faster Little Queen Charlotte. I could go for a slower one, and put something like a Durandal on her, but I opted to go for this, because I wanted her to go before some of the slower DPS units around like the 160 ranges so she can nuke them. She is pretty much my strongest single target neutral nuke. Like Yufine is, you know, weak against fire. We have, actually Luna technically works as well. But Little Queen Charlotte has a bit more survivability and utility in RTA, so there's that. Now I do have a attack percent boot that I could switch out for this, but again, I've been liking the speed on her. I might try an attack boot variant later. It brings her up to like 300 crit damage and like 3,500 attack, but it does sacrifice her speed, and she'll go down to like 150 speed, 150 something speed. So that's a loss of like 30 something speed there. She's on a plus 30 portrait because, of course, she is just nuking things. She is really good against FCC, and that's also one of the reasons why I love her. I might put on an attack boot just to deal with FCCs a little bit faster. But again, we'll have to see. Fully I-90 though, very happy with her. Plus 15. She is so fun to use. Speaking of plus 15 though, we also have Crimson Armin. I use her so much in Guild Wars, it is insane. Not SSS imprinted, unfortunately. I do need to pull more Armins, they just don't show up for me. But here are her stats. Very tanky unit. I would like her speed to be faster, but she has a low base speed, so it's kind of hard to do that. And I don't really want to strip a lot of the speed pieces off my other units, so there is that. Her effectiveness is there just a little bit to go ahead and provoke some units. A little bit of effect res, not enough to really matter too much, but it's there. Aureus here helps mitigate some AoE damage, and she has an adamants built into her kit, so she is looking pretty solid overall. Alright, and yeah, there's Crimson Armin. Nothing really much to say about her. However, on the contrary, we have Celeste. Oh yes, I just recently built this about like a couple weeks ago because I read that she was getting a buff, and I've always liked her. This was one of my favorite ML3 units, and here we are, plus 15 Celeste. I can't wait for her to get a specialty change if she ever gets one in the future. I do need more imprints, because look at that speed imprint here, plus 8 speed will definitely be fantastic with Helga. Plus 16 speed imprint for everybody. Oh yes, please. So here are her stats. I give her a bit of bulk because of the comp that I run her in, which is going to be with Broman. It's just going to be a troll. Broman strips, Celeste keeps pushing back, might use Dizzy or Arbiter Vildred for more CC or just damage with pushback on Arby's S1. Yeah, it's going to be fun. She has some crit chance to help deal consistent damage, and she has a bunch of effectiveness to ensure the pushback. The only problem is right now, she only has a 50% chance to push back. But on the good side, after her buff, it's going to be an 85% chance, which is going to be good. All right, so yeah, she's running speed effectiveness. There's no reason for immunity really here because she is going to outspeed most units. And I actually found a use for Landy's artifact. So Wall of Order here. At the start of the turn, every buff that the opponent has, she's going to have a chance to proc the greater attack buff, which actually does help against tanky comps like FCC. Now, obviously, you probably wouldn't bring Celeste into an FCC fight, but you know, with how dumb I play this game, I do it sometimes, and the greater attack chance proc is actually pretty fun. You get it for one turn only, but Celeste's S3 here actually gives her a 2-turn attack buff, so if you proc the greater attack buff, you can actually use this to make it so that it's 2 turns instead, so it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. And then, of course, the second part of the artifact, after using an AoE attack, it increases the combat readiness of the caster by 10%. So not only is she pushing people back by 20%, but she's gaining 10% combat readiness. It's going to help her at this speed level just loop the opponent, which is going to be fantastic. I can't wait for her to get her buff so I can use her more consistently and just troll the heck out of people in Guild War and RTA. Alright, but there is that. Now, we have, oh my gosh, I have so many archers now. We have Lidica. She, yeah, she got faster than last time. She's currently on an attack imprint. Sometimes I put her on the effectiveness one. But for right now, because I have Broman now, she's really not used to strip buffs. She's just used as a damage dealer or like a CR pusher. So, there's that. Here we go, here are her stats. She got faster, she's 275 speed now. If we can hit 280 speed soon, that would be excellent. I would really appreciate that. But swapped out a couple pieces. She's not on 100% crit chance because I usually use her with CDOM, and CDOM has a crit chance imprint for the whole team, so she gets 100% chance that way, which is good enough. Sasha Atane is on her artifact, which helps just, you know, as you're cleaving, you just get more and more CR push that helps your team cycle even more and potentially lap and cut in to your opponents. It's come up so many times, I cannot bring myself to switch her off this artifact. But yeah, there we go. Plus, ooh, she's what, plus 11, right? Yeah, she's not plus 15. I would like to just get her to plus 15 because I love her so much, but she's not a top priority as of right now. She works exactly as intended, exactly as she is. Alright, next off, the unit I've been talking about so much, we have Broman right here, Benevolent Romann with the plus 4 into his S3 for all of the silence chances. I do need to plus 5 his S2 here. Again, I literally have 0 molas, but waiting to do this is not too important because of his stats, so I'll get to that, and his S1 doesn't really matter. He is self-imprinted for effectiveness, and here we go with the stats. Oh yeah, we have the Unity set, I-90'd Unity set, Broman with speed, speed, speed. That is all you need. He is actually fairly tanky though, to my surprise after I found all the pieces here. Very tanky, gonna stay alive for quite a while, even if people try to focus him down. 261 speed, which is really, really nice. Speed imprints from Celeste and stuff will boost that even higher. And 170 effectiveness, so yeah. Pair that with Abyssal Crown, and he is gonna be fairly cancerous. And that's the reason why I don't really care about this pushback mechanic thing on his S2. He already mitigates it by 80%, but, you know, he can mitigate it by 100%. It's just that he's going to go before most of anything, right? I mean, I guess if a Basar was there, that was faster than Broman, but honestly, rarely going to happen, because if there's a Basar that's fast, I just bring Lidica instead. Broman is so good. So good as a unit. And yeah, that's pretty much it for him. Ruele of Light. So I still need to mola her S2. That is a lot of molas necessary there, which is unfortunate. But here are her stats here. Made her super bulky, and she now only has a 15% chance, right? 15% crit chance. She's still going to crit ML Ken's, still going to get her face kicked in, unfortunately, because that is how Epic 7 works. So basically no wasted stats, right? You look on the side here, no wasted stat lines, no effectiveness, no crit damage, no crit chance, a little bit of attack, of course, because the weapons and things like that, but yeah, pretty much no wasted stats here. Very tanky and defensive. Not fully I-90'd either. She can get more speed, defense, effect res, and health here. She can get more HP, defense, effect res, speed here, right? And the same likewise here, right? So she is not fully I-90'd. She could be even better. But yeah, this is a very nice Ruele. I still prefer her on Water's Origin. The extra healing and the combat readiness boost is so nice. Even though she is this tanky, it still is my artifact of choice. And yeah, there's my Ruele. Fairly straightforward, still one of the most broken units in the game, probably after FCC. Okay, Commander Lorina, the Queen of PvE. So, we have plus 15 on her here, self-imprinted for crit chance actually, mostly because, as you can see here, she has 85% crit chance. I swapped off a bunch of pieces, so she's now on, like, a combination of what she used to have and Yufine's free attack set that Yufine used to wear. And yeah, it brings her to 85% crit chance. This is why Luluca's also on the, what is it called? Midnight Bloom to give her the extra 16% crit chance. Brings Lorina to 100%. Daydream Joker to help inflict more damage, and she just cuts down bosses like butter. She has even more attack for me now. She used to have like 4,100 or something, so I increased that. Increased some crit damage at the cost of crit chance, but the crit chance is made up by the artifact now in Luluca. And yeah, that's it for Lorina. We have Dark Corvus here, still not moloed in his in his S2, which is unfortunate, but it's okay. Self-imprinted for health, and here are his stats. He is not fantastic. He's used in Guild Wars. He works in Guild Wars, and that's pretty much it. He has Strat Gauntlet on, which helps him with his effect resistance here. So if he is above 50% health, he has 150% effect resistance, even though 0% effectiveness units still somehow manage to debuff him, like that Alencia in a Guild War that's going to be coming up soon. Alright, so there is that. But yeah, fairly standard Dark Corvus. A lot of free stuff here on resist pieces as well, mostly for the fact that they rolled really well in terms of their substats. So yeah, I went with those. Alright, moving on here, we have ML Ken, plus 15, and very nice stats here, except his crit damage. His crit damage sucks, his crit chance sucks. He doesn't need crit chance, technically, but I do prefer in the future to have him with more crit chance. Swapped out a few pieces here and there. I don't know. I need more crit damage rolls, right? That's what I'm looking for, and I'm just not really getting them. As you can see, no crit damage roll here. This ring didn't roll crit damage. This didn't roll crit damage. See, like, it just dodged the crit damage rolls. This thing here dodged crit damage rolls. This piece here got like one roll into crit damage, right? So I don't know how to feel about this. His pieces do need a lot more tweaking, but I chose this this combination because it gave him the defense and HP that he needed to survive. He is on Sigret's Scythe. This is the one that's almost max limit broken, one away from max limit break, but just again, lacking the artifact charms, lacking the resources right now. But ML Ken is looking good. Alright, next up we have Arbiter Vildred. Nothing changed from last time, still plus 15. His attack and crit damage and crit chance, I'm really happy with it. I would like him to be faster, but that's pretty much it, right? His gear, fully I-90'd. I use him so much to farm, and it is great. I rarely actually use him in PvP except RTA. I don't bring him to Guild Wars very often. It probably would make my life easier if I did, but I just choose not to. He's on Alexa's Basket right now. He used to be on Moonlight Dreamblade, mostly because I'm going for that cleave build with Broman and Bellona on my defense team. So the chance to proc greater attack on a defense broken unit is just way too good to pass up, so that's why that's there. Alright, and there's Arbiter Vildred. Next off, we have Crescent Moon Rin, only plus a 3 into her S3, and that's all she needs. Self-imprinted for effectiveness, and boom, she got slowed down. She was also a casualty of the Broman, Celeste, and all these the fast Bellona. Like, they had to take the pieces. Okay, so what we have here is basically just looking for speed, some defensive stats, and effectiveness, right? She has 145% effectiveness, which is actually lower than what she had before. I think she had 160 something percent effectiveness, and she was just missing, like, 15% screws you over so much that I was like, screw it, I'm not even gonna bother reaching 150% here. I'm gonna focus on the defensive stats so she can survive longer. And yeah, that's what we have now. She's on RNL, which is actually really nice for her to proc additional turns, cycle through her stun, cycle through her buff steal, immunity buff for the team much faster, and I really do appreciate it. So there's the Rin, Crescent Moon Rin. Alright, next off we have Briar Witch Iseria. I've been using her so much against Kayrons, and it is so much fun. Plus 15 because I love her design and she is fantastic. And here are her, oh, actually I should show her their stats. And here are the substats on my gear. So 227 speed makes it so she goes before things like FCCs and obviously Kayrons, unless they're on a speed build, in which case my Iseria actually has defense and HP, so she can't get one shot by speed Kayrons. Like, it's just, speed Kayrons don't deal enough damage for this. She has a bit of attack, no crit chance, and she has a ton of effectiveness. So the whole purpose of her is to debuff the enemy team and act as support. But what I could do is, because she has Song of Stars here, where she can inflict a target debuff, and she has a defense break in her S1, she can actually deal a lot of damage. What I'll do is I'll bring Oxlots with her, and she'll go debuff everything, then Oxlots will push her up, she'll defense break, target break, you know, target somebody, and then have the attack buff to keep going and dealing more and more damage. So it is really nice. She might not look like she's very offensive, but she can chip away at units and she provides a lot of support. The other reason Song of Stars is here is because there's some units with a lot of evasion, and because Iseria increases her own hit chance by 35%, which is pretty good. She can hit some of those units, especially like Moonlight Dreamblade units, and then inflict target debuff on them. And target, I believe, decreases their chance to evade by like 15% or something like that, which makes it good enough for my other units to be able to attack as well. So she is a really good support unit. I built her that way. Some people build her for damage, but I've just really been liking this build. And yeah, if you have her, I mean, give it a shot. She's really good as a support. Okay, moving on, we have Oxlots, another casualty of the speed meta on my other units. Obviously SSS for the attack buff. We have +3 molas in the S3. That's all you really need for that 100% CR boost. He used to be tankier, lost some of his gear, lost some of his speed, 230 something speed. I don't really use him in RTA. He gets banned way too often as well, so I just don't care. He is actually pretty good at this speed because what you can do is you can actually loop Broman. So Broman can use his S3, Soulburn his S3, get an S1 proc, Oxlots comes after him, pushes Broman down again, you can try procking again. So it's just a really fun troll build. And I can't wait to test it out. He has actually quite a bit of crit chance, which makes him actually compatible with the next unit, which is Cdom, in order to push her up with his S3. But yeah, this is a pretty much a Guild War type of Oxlots, or like an arena one. Again, if I need to contest speed, I have Lidica, I have Broman. I'm not really too worried in that department. He's on target Hell's Ancient Book, which is for any of his the units that he's supporting to go ahead and Soulburn, right? Which is pretty good. And moving on, we have Cdom. So Cdom is +15 here, crit chance. Was a team imprint. And here are her stats. So I changed her up. She used to be a little bit faster, like 160 something speed. She gained a bunch of bulk, so she's now not going to die as easily. But she's also slower a little bit. Way more attack. She used to be only 3,000 attack, so way more attack and a bit less crit damage. I think she used to be like 230, 240 crit damage, now down to like 308. But this build does have more damage than my previous one. She is on target Hell's Ancient Book to go ahead and provide herself the Soulburn to snipe a unit down. But yeah, this decreased speed, it still works in Guild Wars. It pushes up to like 98, 99% combat readiness with my Lidica. And so as long as somebody isn't at 99% chance against my Lidica in terms of combat readiness, then we should be good. If they do cut in, well, I guess we deserve to lose. But yeah, Sidon works so well, and I increased her damage build here, and mostly because I'm going to be using her with things like Broman. I'm not going to scroll up, but with Broman, right? Broman, Celeste is on a crit chance build for to push up to Sidon. So then Broman, Celeste, Sidon as a damage dealer, and you can have like Oxlots, you can have other units there to support. Your 4th unit's very flexible in RTA in that comp, and yeah. It's going to be a very fun troll build to use. Can't wait to try it out. Next off, we have Angelica with only 1 Mola, that's all she needs in her S1, and the SSS imprint for the attack chance for attack buff for the team. She is on speed and immunity. She's rocking over 150% effect resist because of her artifact, which is Shamadra's Staff. Gives her an extra 20% effect resist, actually gives the whole team extra 20% effect resist here, and helps her S2 passive healing with a bit more HP there. Not enough to really be significant, but Shamadra's Staff is pretty good on her. Potion Vial is also not too bad, but I have that on Roana right now. Yeah, her defense and HP don't matter because she has immortality. I sped mine up. Mine is 233 now. She used to be like 220 or something like that, like 218. I don't know, but she got outsped by an RB one time, and that prompted me. I was like, okay, you know what? Screw this. I'm not gonna get outsped by any RBs anymore. 230 speed, and it's never happened since. So very happy with this build. I use her so much as an attack buffer in so many different situations. Alright, and that pretty much does it here. I don't think anybody down here is really oh, actually, Rose I use for PvE. No molas, nothing. She's used for expeditions, right? So this is literally +9 weapon, only used for the speed. Yeah, nothing here really matters. She has some pretty decent pieces on her. There's just pieces that nobody else can use right now, and that I just threw together. She's on Sword of Azira. It's really for expeditions because she tanks in the fire one, and she helps give my Commander Lorina and Luluca the attack buff as well. So she is not too shabby. Not too shabby, but only on a PvE build. She is nothing special at all. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it for all of my units. None of these other units down here are geared with actual gear. And so yeah, hopefully you guys found this account review helpful. Maybe you found a unit that you're wondering how to build and you just didn't know how or what other people's look like. Maybe mine can provide some insight. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe for more Epic 7 content, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what I can do to improve. And until next time, take care.